Well, the time is just gone, 21 minutes past, 21 minutes to 5. And this is the Iftar Drive, and I'll be with you till around 5:30 before we hand you over to Molana Yunus Kawanga. And this is now the segment, the Voices from Palestine segment, together with the Palestine Solidarity Alliance. And once again, as we did yesterday, we are talking to a member, a local member, a member of the South African Jews for Free Palestine. Now, this is very, very important. This is relevant to understand the level of support the Palestinian cause has in South Africa and also right across the entire world from all communities and many, many progressive Jewish communities right across the entire world have been supporting the Palestinian cause, even in the United States of America, where we've seen yesterday Trump Towers as well, occupied by progressive Jews and this had to do with the arrest and the sudden disappearance of Khalil Mahmoud from Columbia University. So this is the fight that they are taking on behalf of the Palestinians. And this is the reason why we're saying that this is not a religious issue. This is a humanitarian issue. And this is the reason why members of the South African Jews for a Free Palestine, a humanitarian organization fighting for humanity, fighting for the Palestinians. And this afternoon, we have the pleasure of being joined by Joe Bluen. Joe, good afternoon to you. Salam and welcome to this afternoon's broadcast, Voices from Palestine.
Salam alaikum and salam to your viewers and listeners at home. Thank you so much for having us on the show. We're really glad to be here again.
Yes, I think, we know how this Palestinian struggle, Joe, has basically united this country. It's united the world. It's united communities, progressive communities who speak out against injustice, who speak out against oppression. And this obviously has given rise to many activists right across the world from various communities. And I'd like to start off by focusing on the Jewish community and to ask you up front, what does it mean to be an activist in the Jewish community, Joe?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, I mean, I think, well, on the one hand, it means a lot of meetings and a lot of eating. But I think more specifically, I think there's a few things that are going on, as you rightly point out. SAJFP has been around for a long time, but our numbers have grown significantly. And I think, part of it is, providing a space for Jewish people who have grown up in a fairly kind of dogmatic Zionist Jewish space to explore their anti-Zionism and to make space for that. But I think, I suppose on a more philosophical level, for me and for many of us, we're guided by a Judaic Eastern European kind of principle called Doigkeit, which means here-ness. It's sort of the closest I can come. And that means sort of being here, and it's an ancient kind of, it draws on ancient ideas, but the idea says we are here where we are. And we don't have to be here as settlers. I mean, many of us are, but also how do we be in coalition, in connection, in relation, in solidarity against oppression wherever we find ourselves. So I think in many ways, being an activist in any community is driven by very similar things. But I think this would be one of the things that really is, driving us. Yeah.
Well, it certainly is. And also, I think, just with my experience, and I've been to a number of rallies, I've been through a number of campaigns as well, where we have hosted, people from South African Jews for a Free Palestine as well. So, and from time to time, even through the media, we've had a number of engagements with members of the community. And, this support is obviously very, very welcome, because once again, it sends out a very, very strong message. It sends out a powerful message actually to those who are strong in this country, For example, when one looks at the Zionist lobby in South Africa, like is the case with IPAC in the United States of America, as is the case with many other lobby groups in many other countries. In South Africa, we have groups like the JNF. We've got the South African Jewish Board of Deputies. We've got the South African Zionist Federations. And we've got many powerful companies, political parties that even support Zionism. Now, for someone like yourself, as an activist in a Jewish community, and also for all of us in general, how do we respond to this strong, powerful lobby groups and also the support, both financially, monetarily, and also these are groups that are supporting the genocide and supporting apartheid Israel?
Absolutely. I think the rise of the kind of Zionist institution in South Africa also, correlates with the ascendancy of apartheid in many ways, because it was in organizations like the Jewish Board of Deputies, is sort of very much about a whiteness pact and a Zionist pact of connected circuits of arms and propaganda that is deeply predicated on all forms of racism, including anti-Semitism. So I think we need to be very clear on the one hand, that absolutely there are Jewish Zionists. There are more Christian Zionists in the world than there are Jewish Zionists, and many Jews are not Zionists. Judaism is a religion that's been around for millennia, whereas Zionism is only a couple of hundred years old and really was a European project of anti-Semitism alongside other forms of racism. So I think, one of the things that, that we see with these organizations is really appalling. I saw, just a couple of weeks ago, the South African Zionist Federation condemning the South African government for going ahead with the ICJ case. The chief rabbi, so-called chief rabbi of the country, endorsing the Trump administration even after we saw Elon Musk's Hitler salute or Avi Be's salute. So I think these organizations are dangerous to all humankind. They are dangerous to us as Jews. They are dangerous to our Muslim friends and comrades. They are dangerous to Black people, dangerous to women, dangerous to queer people. It's just generally, they are very dangerous in what they're doing. And I'm glad you brought up Mahmoud Khalil. They are doing a very similar form of weaponization of an absolutely diabolical, corrupt notion of anti-Semitism that has nothing to do with Judaism or our faith, but everything to do with the settler colonial genocidal project of Zionism, and using us as kind of, as fodder to justify deeply racist, deeply reactionary positions. So I think what is needed is for us to really, I think there are certain organizations that have no place in a democratic dispensation. I certainly don't think the chief rabbi has a place in this country, and it may be interesting to your list. The chief rabbis have been removed from office almost as often as they have not. But I think we are. I think that it is to keep speaking out, to keep fighting, and in terms of the economic side, to keep boycotting, divestment, and pushing the government to implement sanctions legislation. Stopping the coal trade, things like this, and just resisting and being, for me, I think very inspired and driven every day by the Palestinian idea of sumud, of steadfastness, of working fastidiously to refuse any form of oppressive politics. Especially, and it's particularly disgraceful that it is being animated as a pro-Jewish stance.
Yes, Joe. Joe, we're going to put you on hold. I need to pay some bills, so we're going to go for a quick air break, and we'll be back in a few minutes.
Salam Media, your spiritual companion this Ramadan.
Freedom Freedom Stationery supply Marlin and Marlin Kids pens to me and my school friends. They supply just about everything we need to help us get a better education, from books to files to rulers. In fact, any any accessory we need. Freedom Stationery. Education for the nation. What does accessory mean?
World-class financial services only at Sapphire Global, your financial partner. If you are looking for Islamic, Sharia, and ethical financial products, look no further. Sapphire Global offers a wide range of financial service offerings from short-term to life and investments. A full-service center with all financial requirements under one brand. Our highly skilled and experienced consultants are ready to help protect your financial future. Contact us on 041 001 0184 or visit our website on www.sapphireglobalfs.com. Sapphire Global is an authorized financial services provider.
More than 800 million people around the world live in deep poverty, uncertain of where the next meal will come from. For those on the brink of starvation, a food pack means survival, dignity, and hope. Send food. Send kindness. Be the reason a family does not go hungry. Donate now to Islamic Relief.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Valley's Motor Spares. We supply motor spares and accessories for all makes and models of motor cars, LDVs, bakkies, trucks, and earth-moving equipment. We deliver on time, every time. Please contact us via WhatsApp on 014-592-0925 or call 014-592-0925 or visit 28 Zenderling Street, Rustenburg. Remember the name, Valley's Motor Spares.
You are listening to Salam Media live from our headquarters in South Africa. This is Salam Media, keeping you company this Ramadan.
Well, we continue with our broadcast this afternoon, and we're still continuing with our Voices from Palestine segment with member of the South African Youth for a Free Palestine, SAJFP, Joe Bluen. Joe, just to continue, and something interesting you said before we went for the break, and obviously using the word anti-Semitism or anti-Semite, and somehow I get the feeling that this is a term that is used very loosely by a Zionist, where it's a label. It's becoming a label that is being attached to people who disagree with them. And I'm sure, on your side, as someone of the Jewish faith as well, where I've seen this label also being attached to people of the Jewish faith being anti-Semite. And just, your thoughts on this label itself.
I'm so glad you asked that. So I think it's deeply concerning. It's deeply troubling because we actually are seeing rises of anti-Semitism globally. Obviously, we're living under a kind of global fascism, and so and I think that the definition of anti-Semitism that is most frequently that Zionists and other forms of sort of racist fascists have access to is from the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's definition, which essentially defines anti-Semitism as anti-Zionism. Whereas we know that Zionism is a form of racism, and Judaism is a religion, and so I think it's very dangerous. I think it's a way to clamp down and repress not just pro-Palestinian speech, but many other forms of progressive speech and progressive action. It's a way to also undermine genuine instances of racism and other forms of oppression. And essentially, I think it's a witch hunt. I think we get, I mean, sometimes I'm quite surprised by the comments that I get, and where people will say like terrible, terrible things like, I wish all your grandparents died in the Holocaust so you would never be born. And then also call me anti-Semitic for being pro-Palestine. I don't like to talk too much about that, but just as an example, we are living through times of increased Islamophobia, of increased anti-Black racism, sexism, homophobia, and anti-Semitism. And so it's so dangerous to take to call yourself a rememberer of the Holocaust, the Nazi Holocaust in Europe, and have recourse to a definition that is rooted in the same fascism that you are trying to claim to oppose. So I think we go back to the definitions on one hand, and on the other, just to stand strong together against this kind of very McCarthyist witch hunt that's happening in our educational institutions, that's happening on the streets, that's happening including with physical violence, and I think these are things that we really, it can't be tolerated, and certainly is not a form of Judaism that I recognize as Judaism. In any recognize, it's not to say that they're un-Zionist Jews, but the definition of anti-Semitism that is used is really, really a fascist definition.
Well, definitely. In fact, what you're saying is very true, because I had the opportunity many years ago to actually interview a couple, and they were Holocaust survivors. And at that point in time, I was at Channel Islam International, and I had both the husband and the wife, very, very elderly. They must have been close to their 90s at that point in time, and I had them in studio with me. And this was one of the discussions that we had actually brought up in terms of, defining what is anti-Semitism and how anti-Semitism is actually seen or viewed or understood by Zionists, and how it is actually used as a weapon sometimes to go against their opponents. And this came out very, very strongly. But let's just continue, Joe, and let's talk about support for progressive Jewish people like yourself, for communities like yourself. What sort of support would you require from other South African communities to make sure that, number one, you strengthen your solidarity with Palestine, and at the same time joining this fight against racism and oppression?
Well, I mean, first of all, thank you. It's a very generous thing to say, and let me start by saying we have been overwhelmed by the support that we receive from the BDS coalition and our partners there, including the Palestine Solidarity Alliance, with whom we work very closely. I think it occurs to me that given the kind of onslaught, and as you've mentioned, this sort of heavy Zionist lobby in this country and globally, and the election of Trump and the government of national unity, and all these factors that are really intensifying deeply regressive forces. I guess what I'd say is I think it's really time for us to think together, to work, and to say, how do we think across difference? How do we think across different space? How do we think across similarity? I think that's really important because the Zionists and the fascists are not concerned with minor differences. And so how do we kind of build something that remains true to its integrity and will continue building? Sorry, I think it's already, there's so much, we walk in great footsteps, but in this intensified period, I think that's the one thing. The other is I would really like to extend an invitation. We have a Shabbos against genocide in Palestine, Shabbos being our Friday night. And it's very often interfaith. We've had it in mosques, we've had it in churches, we've had it outside. And I really would like, it's an open place for anyone. We do a lot of prayers for Palestine and against oppression more generally, and everyone is welcome. So I hope we can just continue these very important conversations. Think about where our different roles in this revolution sit, how we can come together as human beings and just sit even more than we are, and think about that. And also just I think also to remember that Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, anti-Palestinian racism, anti-Black racism all come from a very similar place. And so to think, with our connected struggles, how we can imagine, I guess this is what I'm thinking, how we can collectively imagine a world that is better for all who live in it.
Well, thank you for that, Joe. In fact, it's been an absolute pleasure. And, I recall when I was in December, I think I was in Cape Town, and you're talking about the Sabbath as well. And there was an event that had taken place in Cape Town, actually. And I know there were members from the Jewish faith that were present, lighting candles and, all those things as well. And I still recall it was on a Friday afternoon as well, out in Cape Town. So, those are just some of the memories that come to mind as you were talking, Joe. But for now, we thank you. We certainly do appreciate you taking time out this afternoon, talking to us, and also, more importantly, your support, for the Palestinian cause against racism, as you mentioned. There's just so much injustice that is permeating through the entire world as we speak right now. And really, it takes like-minded people. And once again, we need to be united in purpose to fight off against all these ills and these evils that obviously seem to be dominating, whether it's fascism, whether it's racism, whether it's Zionism, Christian Zionism, whatever it is. At the end of the day, it's all about people who need to enjoy a life of dignity, a life of purpose, a life of freedom, a life where they are liberated as well in more ways than one, in mind, in body, in spirit, and in soul. And for all that, thank you, Joe. And I'm sure this is not the last. You and I will be engaging at some point in time. All the best to you.
Thank you so much. To a free Palestine in our lifetime. Thank you.
Well, certainly, definitely. That is something we need to see. And let's stay positive.
Thank you.
Joe Bluen was us this afternoon, member of the South African Jews for a Free Palestine, as part of our Voices from Palestine segment brought to us courtesy of the PSA. And this is the last one for this week, which is 2 weeks in a row. And I'm sure a lot more over the next 2 weeks in the month of Ramadan from 4:30 to 5 as we bring you more voices from Palestine. And we will not stop. We will continue. And again, Joe left on a very positive note that, meeting in a free Palestine, that is how much a confidence they have that at some point in time, all the sacrifices, the struggles, the blood, the sweat, the tears, the lives that have been lost, the martyrs, all of that, at the end of the day, will come to fruition, where we will see the fruits of this hard struggle. It's been long, decades-long struggle that has taken place. But again, we know that freedom is definitely on the horizon. With that, we're going to go for the Asr Adhan and the Asr Salah. We have one more item left. When we come back, before I hand you over to Maulana Yunus Kawanga, and we're going to be paying tribute to honoring, in fact, 42 years of dedicated service to education. A special tribute to Mr. M.K. Sayed, a former principal of Roshni Primary School, for his 42 years of dedicated service to education. We'll be talking to Mr. M.K. Sayed and possibly one or two more people right after this. But right now, let's take a break. Let's go and read our Asr Salah.